Hi, you're welcome to the writing part of this test. So like you know, my name is Joe. So let's quickly look at the writing and then see the parts into which the writing is divided and some other things. Okay. Okay, so we have 4 slides for the writing test. Okay, so quickly let's go into it. So the writing test, the IELTS writing test, the IELTS writing module tests the test taker's ability to express himself or herself in writing, and their ability to succinctly discuss or describe a given subject matter. Now, basically, in writing, in the IELTS test, be it academic, general, or even the essay writing, you'll be given a topic to write on. For the academic students, it's going to be, how is it called, a report writing, while for the general students, it's going to be a letter writing. So now this, in all, it checks your ability to discuss a given topic, a given subject matter in writing, or describe a given subject matter in writing. Then another thing you have to take note of is the fact that this is divided into 2. It's divided into 2 tasks. The task 1, sorry, I interchanged this. The task 1 for the academic, it's sorry, this was a mistake on my part. Okay. This was a mistake on my part. Let me quickly correct it. Okay, so this is task 1 and task 2. So for the academic, now the task 1 would either be a report writing or a letter writing, depending on your candidacy type. That is to say, if you're writing the academic test, you are going to be writing a report writing. And if you're writing the general test, you're going to be writing a letter. But for the task 2, it's an essay writing, whether you're taking academic or general, it's an essay writing. Now you should take note of the fact that if you are taking a general test and you selected the general option during purchase of my course I told you guys about of this course, then you are definitely going to encounter the academic, or the one you selected. You are definitely going to encounter the task 1 for the task you collected. So that's it. About the introduction, the writing test basically checks your ability to understand a given task and being able to interpret it in writing. Then let's move on to the second slide. Okay, so let's quickly look at the essay, which is the task 2, before we look at the task 1. So the essay writing basically checks your ability to discuss a given topic vividly and in an orderly manner, in an orderly and concise manner. Now, when addressing given topics, there are several things to put into consideration. And these are the things that basically the examiners look at. These are the things they look at. Now, there's a criteria which the examiners use when grading your work. They follow a certain format, they follow a certain criteria when grading your work. Now, let me outline those things. Now, the first one, the marking criteria entails task achievement, coherence and cohesion, logical coherence and cohesion, grammatical range and accuracy. Now, the examiners, they pay closer attention to all these things. Now, there are several question types. There are several question types that you would encounter in the essay writing. When checking your essay, there are several question types that you would encounter. There are several question types that you'd encounter. Now, basically, we'll look at this marking criteria in more in-depth in the other course. Then the coherence and cohesion simply means how you are able to address vividly, follow from point to point. How are you able to flow from point to point in your answer, or when answering the question, or when writing on this topic you're given? That is what the coherence and cohesion checks on. The other parts of the marking criteria, we'll look at them in the other course. Then the next thing is the question type. I made mention of the fact that there are several question types, which you can see on the screen. Now we have the agree or disagree question type, the positive or negative development question type. They discuss both views and give your opinion. They cause problems and solution questions, the advantages or disadvantage question, and lastly, the double direct question. Okay, so basically, let's discuss this one after the other. There are some questions that would appear, and these questions, they would ask you, they could say, parents are the best teachers. Do you agree or disagree? Now, there's a way you answer this question. You first of all have to look at this question in depth to understand what you're being asked. This could be a one-issue question, and it could also be a two-issue question. Now you have to decide that. How do you decide whether it's a one-issue or a two-issue question? There's always a comparison in a two-issue question. While in a one-issue question, it's a direct something. Like in this case, parents are better teachers than are better teachers. There's a comparison, there's an implied comparison between parents and the normal educational or the normal formal teachers. So you have to take note of this fact. There's a comparison there. So when they ask you, do you agree or disagree, it's a two-issue question. That is to say, for a two-issue question, you have to touch both sides. Now, I'm not saying you should agree and disagree. You cannot stand on the fence, but you have to touch why parents are better teachers and why formal teachers, trained teachers, are not as good as parents. That is what we mean by a two-issue question. Then the positive or negative development questions basically entails or requires you to give a verdict on a given question. They could ask you a question like, during electioneering periods in your country, politicians tend to go closer to the voters than before, or than they used to. Is this a positive or a negative development. Now you would have to give your verdict whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now these questions are, these are not past questions. I'm just trying to create some questions from my head and try to simply tell you how the questions usually look like. Now there's usually a preamble to a question, and then there's the question. Now basically they would ask you if this is a positive development or a negative development. What does this mean? This simply tells you that when you are asked this kind of question, they are simply requiring you to pass a verdict, whether it is good or it is bad. If it is good, then why is it good? If it is bad, why is it bad? In this case, you can simply tell them it is both a positive development and a negative development. Yes, I remember I said you can't stand on the fence, but in this case, you could decide to stand on the fence. This is basically your opinion. This is basically your opinion. So you could decide now to stand on the fence or not. Then the next one, they said discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, in this question type, there are usually two sides to this argument. This school of thought believes this other school of thought believes this. Now, you are now asked to address why this first school of thought believe what they believe in, and the second school of thought believe what they believe in. Now, discuss why do they think this? Why do these people think this? Why do these other people think this? And then tell the examiner what you, as the test taker now, what you believe in. That is one. That is simply how to answer this question. Discuss this side of the arguments. Maybe school of thought A said, okay, let's say many people believe that formal education is better, while some people believe that formal education is good for the child, while others believe that informal education is better for the child. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, in this kind of question, I would first of all have to discuss the part that says formal education is good for the child. Discuss that part. Then discuss this other part, right? This other part that says informal education is better. And then discuss this two parts. And then finally, I would give my opinion on what I think. So that is how you tackle this question. Then the next one, cause, problem, and solution. Cause or problem and solution. Now there's always a cause and there's always a problem. For this question type, there are two sides to this argument. Your one side, the question would always come in two ways. One way would ask you, okay, what are the causes of bad roads in Africa? That is the question. And what are possible solutions to this? And the other one could ask you, there are several bad roads in Africa. What are the causes of this? And what are possible solutions to this? Please take note of what I just said. I said one would say, there are several bad roads in Africa. What are the causes of this? Then the other one says, okay, what are the causes of this? And what could be done to solve this? Then the other one said, there are several bad roads. Okay. There are several bad roads in Africa. What could this result to? What problems could this result to? And what are the causes of this? Now, these are two things. One is asking you, what problems could it result to? And what are the possible solutions. Now, one is asking you the causes of bad roads in Africa. The causes of bad roads in Africa. Please take note, the problem in this case is the bad roads in Africa. That is the problem. It's asking you what causes bad roads in Africa and how bad roads in Africa can be resolved. Then the second one says, there are bad roads in Africa. What problems could it lead to? What problems could it lead to? Now, in this case, they are asking you what problems can the bad roads here now is now causes, is now the cause of the problem you are required to find. The first one, you were required to find the cause, while the second one, you are required to find the problem. Now, each time you are required to find something, you would also know that that problem, whether you're finding the problem or you're finding the cause of the problem, it is the solution to that problem that you would provide. You would provide the solution to that problem. In this cause, problem, or solution, in this cause, problem, and solution question type, you are always required to find the problem, the solution to any problem that is stated. Then you have the advantage, disadvantage questions. The advantage, disadvantage questions. Now, the advantage, disadvantage questions basically are the same thing as you would always have them, the merits and the demerits. They could ask you what are the advantages and disadvantages of maybe having a car. Now you discuss the advantages and discuss the disadvantages. You discuss the advantages and discuss the disadvantages. Then you discuss, this is to say you discuss the both sides of the argument, the same thing. Then you have the double or direct question. This question could be it could be a two-in-one question, which is double question. And also it could just be one question, but it's a direct question. This kind of question is the easiest to tackle. So we'll talk about how to tackle them in the other class. Then sample of the questions would be made available in the full course, actually. Sample questions will be made available in the full course. Then let's quickly look at the task 1. Okay, so we're starting with the general. Task 1. So for the general, we said it's the task 1 for the general, is a letter writing. I think that was what we said. It's a letter writing. Now, this is as straightforward as it can be. The letter writing basically requires the test taker. It is the first task, not the second task. It is the first task. It requires the test taker the test taker or the students writing the general test to express themselves through a letter on a given topic. Now, we already know that there are 3 different types of letter, right? That is formal, semi-formal, and informal. Abi? Okay, so now with that in mind, how do we get to answer this question? Now, there are 3. There's a marking criteria for this, which checks the task achievement, the coherence and cohesion, and the grammatical range and accuracy. There's also one which I'm not mentioning here. Don't worry, I won't mention it here. There's also one, and that's the 4th one. You are being graded in those 4 criteria. In those 4 criteria, rather. Now, basically, you would need to pay attention. The difference between all these letter types that I mentioned earlier, formal, semi-formal, and informal letter, is the tonality. That is the tone with which you write the letter. The IELTS examiners also pay attention to that. Then the coherence and cohesion. How well are you able to write such that even a 7-year-old child can understand what you're writing? Yes, try to write what even a primary school child can understand. So basically, we'll look at that in the full course. Then the next thing, that is what coherence and cohesion checks. Then the next thing is the question types, the formal letter, the informal letter, and the semi-formal letter. Now, these three question types, we already know these three letter types. We already know that, okay, in normal English writing, we would always have these three types of letter would always have them in normal English writing, right? Okay, so now when you are confronted with this, how do you address them? In the IELTS letter writing, you don't need an address, you don't need a heading. Just go straight to the letter, dear sir or ma. You continue writing what you're writing. Now in the letter, you'd be given bullet points to address. How do you address these things individually? In the formal letter, you would always want to use a formal tone, which is an official tone, because the letter is a formal letter is an official letter. We all know that. So you'd always be required to use an official tone. That's it. Then for the informal letter, you would be required to use an informal tone because it is recognized, or it is allowed, that because you're writing to someone you are familiar with, you can write informally. But please, all those shorthand writing that people used to write on their WhatsApp, please don't bring them here to be considered as you don't know how to spell. Then the semi-formal letter. Now, this is basically a letter to someone you know, but you're not so familiar with the person. Maybe, for instance, your neighbor, someone you live in the same estate with, or your landlord, or even your boss. If you are inviting your boss in the office to a social gathering, you are no longer writing a formal letter. That is one. You're no longer writing a formal letter if you are writing a letter to invite your boss to an informal gathering. So you're not writing a formal letter, you are writing a semi-formal letter. So this is just it. Then the samples of this will be addressed in the full course. Then lastly, we look at the academic writing. That's the task 1 for the academic students. This is the first task for those taking the academic test. For those taking the academic test, this is their task 1. Now, in this report writing, you are being asked, the students are being asked to present they are being presented with a diagram. They are being presented with a diagram, and then they are asked to interpret this diagram in writing, with particular attention to how well the student is able to use descriptive languages. The examiners pay particular attention to how well the student is able to use descriptive language when presenting their work. So basically, things that will be outlined here are the marking criteria, the task achievement, the coherence and cohesion, and the question type. So basically, now I didn't tell us what task. I've been mentioning task achievement, and I didn't even talk about what task achievement is, and nobody has. Okay, I didn't talk about what task achievement is. So now let me explain to you what task achievement basically mean. Task achievement, task achievement could be described as you, or as your ability to be able to answer the question you are given. You know, there are some people that they'll give them a question, and these people, rather than answering this question, right? Rather than answering this question, they twist it the other way around, such that they are not answering the question they were asked. Rather, they are answering a different question that was not asked. So that is what this test pays attention to, the task achievements. That is what it pays attention to. Were you able to answer the question? Maybe, for instance, in the agree or disagree question where they said parents are better teachers than formal teachers or than trained teachers, you were now answering how is it called? Trained teachers are better teachers than parents. Now you're no longer answering that question. In that case, because it's an agree or disagree question, technically, you would be agreeing with what is on paper. If you tell them that, okay, trained teachers are better teachers than parents, right? Or I agree that trained teachers are better teachers. Now, that is to say, you've gotten the whole question wrongly. You've gotten the whole question wrongly. You agree or you disagree with what is on paper. If you're disagreeing with the fact that trained teachers are, if you are disagreeing with the fact that parents are better than trained teachers, you simply tell them, I disagree that trained teachers are better. Sorry, I disagree with the fact that parents are better teachers than trained teachers. Now you give your own thought on it, and that is it. You don't need to now telling them that, okay, I agree that trained teachers are better teachers than parents. Now you have twisted that question. You are now answering a question that IELTS did not set for you. Rather, you are answering a question that you set for yourself. So these are the technicalities in the tests that you just need to pay attention to. These are the technicalities in the test that you need to pay attention to. And this is very important if you wish to get above a 6.5 in the writing. You need to ace the task achievement at least a 7.0. If you aim to score a 6.5, you need to get the task achievement at least a 7.0. So it is the task achievement is as important as every other thing in the test. Now, coherence and cohesion. This basically entails what I would choose to call logical writing or writing logically. Writing logically. Now, logical writing entails you stating why you think something is, you stating a reason for something, explaining that thing, and then giving an instance of that thing. These are the three things that logical writing entails. And this coherence and cohesion, I would simply choose to call it logical writing. That is what logical writing simply means. How coherent is your work? How does it follow the logical writing pattern? That is what coherence and cohesion simply mean. Okay, so back to our academic report writing. So the question types you would get here are the bar charts, line graph, pie charts, table, and diagrams. Now, bar charts, all those long bars that they will now ask you to describe. I don't know how to put it in words now. I would have shown you. Okay, I don't have it handy. I would have shown you an example. Now, line graph, simply like drawing, line graph. In fact, all these things, you already know them and would do all these things, would still show all these things in the full course. So basically, that is the writing. Now, that would be all for the writing. So I would want to tell us that will be the end of our free masterclass. And then if you want more of your writing to be graded, more on the writing, more on the reading. We haven't exhausted everything in the listening. I think it's only in the speaking where we have been able to exhaust everything. We have not exhausted everything in the writing. We have not exhausted everything in the reading. We've only been able to exhaustively discuss the speaking segment of the test. Now, for us to be able to exhaustively discuss these things, we would have to now agree. You would have to take the full course. The full course is available already, but I'm not sending it to anyone till the end of this week because I'm still putting finishing touches to it. So you would have to contact me for that. So that will be all. So it was nice having a session with you. See you all in the full course.